Hi guys! So today I'm going to share my breastfeeding story with you. And let me just say that for many years before I even ever thought about having a child, I always thought there would be no way that I would be able to have enough courage to put a baby up to my breast. I don't know why. I know that there's a big group of women out there. I actually have several friends who feel the same way. I just never thought that it would be something that I would be able to do. But then once I got pregnant, so many people were asking me if I was going to breastfeed or formula feed. So within doing research after I got pregnant, I found that there was a group of women who just exclusively pump. And I thought, yes, this is it. This is the ticket. That is exactly what I'm going to do. So I got my breast pump and the bottles, and for the majority of my pregnancy, if you asked me, that is what I'd say. I'm going to exclusively pump. And I was excited for it. I did a lot of research. I knew it was going to take a lot of time, but I thought, oh, that'll be okay. So, my daughter was born at exactly 37 weeks. And a couple of weeks before she was born, I started to kind of think, maybe I will try for the colostrum. I'll just try breastfeeding in the hospital. And that's kind of when I started with these little goals for myself, and I thought, okay, 2 days. 2 days in the hospital, 3 days. If I have a C-section, I'll try breastfeeding. And if not, my hospital provided a breast pump if necessary. And I know some people want to bring their pump to the hospital, but I just thought, I'm not going to bring my pump. But so I gave myself a couple days. Let's just try a couple of days. So when my daughter was born, I was in the hospital and I tried breastfeeding her, and right away the nurse came in. I didn't know what I was doing. So she asked, oh, do you need any help? And I said, yes, please, if you have any advice. So she came in, and the lactation consultant wasn't available right away. So the nurse said, oh, I'll help you. So she came in our room, and she was really aggressive with my breast, really pushing and pinching and pulling, and it was really painful, and it literally brought tears to my eyes. But I just thought, she knows what she's doing, don't say anything. I don't know. I'm not sure if I was just really tired or what it was, but I didn't say anything to her, and I should have. Looking back, I should have told her, ease up. But it was good because my daughter latched on right away, and there were no issues. It was fine. And then a couple hours later, the lactation consultant came in, and she let me know that the colostrum had come in and that was great. And so pretty much, there was a little bit of issue. There were a few times that I had to try a couple of times to relatch, but for the most part, I didn't really have too many issues. My daughter and I didn't have any issues really. So after we got out of the hospital, it was a crazy time. We actually had to move the day that we got out of the hospital, and there was going to be a 2-week period that we were going to be staying at my grandma's house until our rental was ready. So my plans kind of changed because the breastfeeding in the hospital was going really well, and I just thought, okay, well, I'll still try and breastfeed while I'm at home. Let's just kind of see for a couple of days. But I'm also going to try and pump too, and just kind of do both. So it was almost like immediately when we got home, my daughter had a hard time latching. It just kind of progressively got harder and harder to latch her, and if she did latch, she would only stay on for a couple seconds to a minute. And I don't know, so she would peck around, she would root and root furiously, and I felt so terrible. So I think it was the night that we got out of the hospital. We had to move that day, so we were at my grandma's house, and I was up in the bedroom and I was trying to pump. Now, I had no idea what I was doing, and I got a little bit of colostrum out of each side, and I gave myself a really nasty sore. So I thought, great, this is perfect. So I gave my daughter the colostrum and she drank it immediately and it all, like, really quickly. So I felt terrible. I was like, oh my gosh, she's starving. So I kept trying. And the next morning, I went to the store and bought formula. I was like, you know what? This poor baby, I don't want her to be starving. So I went to the store, bought some formula. She drank it. That day, I believe we had a doctor's appointment, and she lost a little bit of weight, but nothing too drastic that they were concerned about. But you know what? I thought, I'm going to call my lactation consultant. So I did, and I made an appointment for that day. Thankfully, they were able to get me in. And she basically advised me on getting a nipple shield. So she actually had one there, and she sized me for one, which thank goodness she did, because I would have probably gotten one way too big. So that's a tip there, is if you're going to use a nipple shield, make sure you're getting the right size. And if you're not sure, I know that there are guidelines online that you can find, but also, call a lactation consultant and, go get sized for one if you're not sure. So immediately with that, we had no problems. She latched on. She was on for a good while. She was gaining weight. So, because they weighed her before she fed, and then they weighed her after she fed, and she had taken in quite a bit. So, so we went home, and that was what I used. I used the nipple shield. Now, I'm not sure, looking back, if she needed it because she was born a couple weeks early, or if she just wasn't able to latch onto my nipple well enough. I'm not really sure. So I had read that long-term use of the nipple shield isn't necessarily all that great. So you only want to use it for a short time. So I thought, you know what, this is working for us, and, I'll gradually wean her, over a while. So I want to say at about 3 months was when I kind of weaned her from the nipple shield just onto my breast. And at this point, I still wasn't real comfortable with it, but I was able to do it. So I thought, you know what? And pumping, I did pump, periodically, and just to kind of, I never was one to be able to pump a whole lot. I don't think that I produced much more than what my child needed. So that was something, and so I didn't pump a whole lot, but I did realize very quickly that pumping is serious business. They are not playing around. You have so many tubes to wash. You have to wash the flanges. You have to wash the bottles that you pump into, and then the bottles that you give the formula or the breast milk to the baby in. It's a lot. So breastfeeding was going pretty well with the nipple shield, so I just thought, don't mess up a good thing. So around 3 months was when I weaned her just straight onto the breast. And she did really well. She was latched fine and everything was fine, but the soreness started to come in, because with the nipple shield, I didn't really have any soreness. And it was pretty painful to the point that I didn't, I know that they say, one of the things that you can use is the lanolin cream. It's kind of like a petroleum jelly kind of texture. And I did try that, but I thought, this is too sticky. They advise they say to wipe it off before your baby latches, because sometimes the baby won't like the taste or whatever. So I decided I'm just going to use coconut oil. So that worked really, really well for me, was the coconut oil, because I just thought there's no way that I would be able to put the cream on, wipe it off, and have my baby latch. It just seemed too much, because my nipples were already really sore, and I just thought, no. So I had no issues with the coconut oil. It worked really well for me. And then another thing too was the breast pads, the milk pads that soaks up any extra milk. I had purchased reusable ones, but I don't know why, but they were kind of rough. So I just ended up using disposable ones. And those seem to work a lot better for me. They didn't irritate my nipple as much, so that's what I used. And so we kept on like this. I breastfed her until she turned about 11 months. And she kind of, I know that they say not many babies like wean themselves, but she did. It was really interesting because I was kind of done. Like I knew at 1 year we were going to be done. I was going to use up the rest of my freezer stash, which wasn't a huge stash or anything. Like I said, I pretty much produced what she needed. But she just basically weaned herself. I didn't really have to do much. She started to only drink on one side at a time, and I don't know, it was just, and then if I tried to move her from one side to the next side, she didn't want anything. So I talked to my doctor about it, and he said, you know what, it's fine, just switch her over to formula, or cow's milk. So that's what I did. We kind of mixed it a little bit, and just to kind of get her used to the cow's milk. And we did. We put her on whole milk at about 11 months, and that's what she's been on ever since. And she loves it. I mean, I really had no issues. I know that there are some people who do have issues, but we didn't really have any issues in that department. The most stressful of my breastfeeding experience was probably in the beginning when she wasn't latching and furiously trying to figure out what is going on. And then at about 3 months when I was weaning her off of the nipple shield and onto just the breast, because that was really painful. So yeah, but if you have any questions, please feel free to comment. I might go into breastfeeding a little bit more in another video, just kind of do a little bit more in-depth video about it. But if you have any questions, please let me know. And thanks for